morning, good morning. Today's topic, bless everything you see with forgiving eyes. The format will be a little different. We won't have a regular open mic. I'll talk for just a little while, and then we'll have a dialogue. And so I'm just going to start with a little bit of history of how I started this project in July to try to see what it would be like to bless everything I see with forgiving eyes. Over the years, I'd had experiences where I would be overwhelmed by a sense of beauty in the world, a shimmering, a sense of love, a presence outside of me, inside of me. I don't even know where it came from, right? It was just there. And I had a lot of different explanations for it, but I've come to feel that is could be called love. It could be called God. It could be called oneness, contact. And in our course group, in our closing, we say, as part of our closing, we say, bless everything with forgiving eyes. And I wanted to see how that applied to my daily life. So the first time I did, Delith and I live west of Ann Arbor, so when we drive in, we're driving on 94 through beautiful open farm country, and always have a really beautiful view of the clouds. And the first time I really tried this in earnest, I was driving in, and the clouds somehow were the easiest, right? I don't have a lot of associations about what clouds did to me in the past. And so I'm looking at the clouds, and I'm thinking, I bless everything I see with forgiving eyes, and the clouds start becoming something I've never seen before, and they're shimmering light, not just sunlight, but they're different. And I start trying to apply this to everything. And the first thing that happened was the judgmental part of my mind came in and said, you're not doing this right. You need to be more vigilant against this darkness in your soul, right? Against, if you're not blessing, then you're cursing. And it was very interesting to try to deal with that critical voice and say, well, what does it mean to have my heart in this, right? Because when I feel like I have my heart in it, that critical voice doesn't make me lose energy, bend over, get a stomach ache, shut down, all that kind of stuff that critical voice would normally do. So it became apparent to me that when I do it from my heart, it doesn't matter when I do it, if I do it right, if I do it enough, right? It just that I once in a while remembered, what is this thing to bless everything I see with forgiving eyes? And that opened up another thing, that much of the time, if not all of the time, who's doing the blessing is not little me. Is not the me that thinks life should be X, Y, and Z, not the me that has an identity that needs to be recognized or gratified or anything. It's something greater than me that I feel is, when we say the word blessing or bless you, it doesn't come from us. That the blessing is from God or Spirit or the oneness or the wholeness or whatever you want to call it, your higher self. It's our joined, perfect beauty is the blessing. So, you guys want to talk about this? Okay. I'm going to get the other microphone. Thank you, Eric. I saw you shake your head.
That's what happened. It's on. Oh, there, it's on. I have to be careful about shaking my head, apparently. It gets me the microphone. I'll forgive you for that. So, one of the things I've been doing every morning for several months now is what I call my morning practices. And they're a way to bring in some of that energy that you were just describing, to counter some of that, the voices inside my head that tell me I'm doing it wrong, or I have lots of those. So, and one of them is, there are like about 10 of them, but the one that came to me when you were talking is first realizing that I am very grateful to have the opportunity and the ability to do what I call stepping into reverence. And that's something I can feel myself doing. Mm-hmm. And so first I'm grateful for that. And then I say, now I now step into reverence, which is always alive inside of me. And I bless my whole self, the whole world, and the whole universe in all our beautiful and messy perfection.
Amen.
Oh.
I just want to say, it's like the sense of blessing. There's sometimes when I'm imagining something bad in the world, right? And I can't seem to bless it. And so I ask for help. Help me bless this thing that I see. Because when I really pretty much believe that if I'm not blessing it, I am judging it, I'm cursing it, I'm pushing it away. And so I'm creating more separation. And I need help. I need Spirit to help me step out of my little rut.
This is perfect. My dad, instead of saying, God it, for most of my life, would say, God bless it. And that was his way. And I just think that's perfection. So I love to share that story because I think that's a nice way to sort of shift it a little bit and kind of change the attitude,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Here, you do it.
Okay. Dave Pettis. I saw his hand first.
The most difficult thing that I do in blessing is blessing our president and Mitch McConnell and Attorney General Barr and people that I think are behaving just extraordinarily badly. And it's very, very difficult in real time to remember that these are divine beings just like I am.
Yeah.
And the only way, I just this morning read a piece in my email, the only way that we're actually going to solve our problems is to sit down and have a conversation. Mm-hmm. We have to give up forever being right.
Yeah.
We have to let go of being right. And we have to listen to those people on the other side, ones that we think are dead wrong.
Yeah.
And until we are willing to actually listen and have a conversation, and that includes blessing them, because they're divine beings just like we are. So, in real time, it's difficult.
Yes, sir. It helps me sometimes. I'll be right there. it helps me sometimes to imagine that all that I'm projecting on them is in me and lives in me, right? All the isolation and selfishness, and to imagine what it's to be like to be the president and be so isolated and paranoid that everyone is out to get you, wants something from you, and to live a life like that. What would I be like in that circumstance? Maybe worse.
When I think, am I on? Okay. When I think of blessing someone, I think of taking action in terms of being compassionate to someone, not necessarily being tied up in empathy or locked in with sympathy, but simply having compassion, which to me, the way I see experiencing compassion for an individual or somebody is, first of all, you need to be present and you need to be calm. That presence and calmness with an individual means letting go of all your own garbage here. Mm-hmm. Then you need to take stock of what that individual is experiencing and understanding it as much as you can, so that you can take the step of being helpful. Mm-hmm. And that's my description of being compassionate, and that's how I would say we take action to bless somebody. Then our presence with them is the compassion, the blessings, because we're there with them. We're not being drugged down by what their problem is or their issue is.
Thanks,
So
Ray.
there we go.
So I have 5, I hope fairly quick things. First off...
5 criteria for blessing, right?
Sort of, I think. Anyway, this topic brings these to mind. First off, I just love being in this place. Almost every encounter I have here has been delightful and it's inspiring and deep and profound. So I just really love coming here because it definitely reorients me. The second thing is that I'm appreciative of the lengthy work I've done with my therapist, who, as hard-headed as I was, finally got me to see that the roots of my anger, which I've been trying to wrestle with for something like 25 years, probably lay in a diagnosis of complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'm realizing that while I can see where that started, and there was an initial tendency to blame my parents for how it originated, once I could accept that it happened, I'm beginning to see the roots of how I can change it and let go of it, which I'm really, really appreciating. The third thing is a little snippet I heard on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. They interviewed Henry Winkler. Most of you know him as the Fonz. And they asked him what the secret of life is, because he's so widely accepted and loved as an actor. And he said 2 principles, steadfastness and gratefulness. And he lets his life be guided by those 2 things. That really resonated when he said it. The fourth thing was a movie I saw back in November. I thought this was going to be a rom-com. It had all the makings of it in all the previews I saw. It was a movie called Last Christmas, and it turned out to be so much different than what I expected. The central character actually goes through a process of sort of self-absorption to an open-heartedness that was really just wonderful to watch as it flowered. And the last one just happened this past Friday. I saw the movie In the Neighborhood. Now, I was very cynical about Fred Rogers when he was on television. I thought that's child stuff, and what's a pleasant little song, oh my God. But seeing that in action in the movie, and seeing the compassion he brought to a really angry man, just constantly affirming that he could see it a different way and believing in the good of the person, just was really profoundly satisfying and
It takes
deeply
strength.
moving.
It takes focus and strength to do that.
I mean, and I think in him a kind of purity within himself that he could reach out with that kind of love on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a new hero, Fred Rogers.
Awesome. I just want to comment to your point about the person going through selfishness. So this exercise has brought up in me so much awareness of how bloody selfish I am. How much my happiness depends on me getting what I want or what I imagine, right? And the only way, or the way the healing is working, is I'm allowing myself to be that. I'm not opposing it with rules and laws or ideals about how I should be. I'm accepting and embracing that. And it's making me want to bless the thing that I'm cursing because it went the wrong way. And it gets so bad sometimes that I get in struggles with things and I use the form of God. I don't say God bless. I say the other one. Right? And I get so angry and upset that I'm shaking. And I let myself have that experience, and hopefully not in front of Deleth or our cat. And it's helping me to witness that inside of me, that selfishness, right?
I really resonate with the concept of forgiveness because we tend to think of it as an outward activity towards someone else. You know, they've done something, you've been hurt, and it's, we get wrapped up in all of these outer journeys, these external stories. But if you take one of your external pains and you start to go within and find out where you are the key player who needs to be forgiven. Yeah. And that was such a profound experience for me because it, physically, for weeks, took me a while to work through that. And I came to such a point of self-love and self-forgiveness and self-authenticity that I then began to explore this oneness. So if we can get through the self-condemnation, then we get closer to that oneness.
Yes.
And that oneness with our conflict, whether it be a physical conflict. For me, I had a little knee injury, a few weeks ago, I don't know how long ago it was, but I was able to sit with it and become one with it. Mm-hmm. I'm rehabbing a house, and I did not put my face mask on, the filter mask on. And I swear I breathed in asbestos or lead or something. But as my physical lungs were indicating to me something was wrong, I just released any separation from it.
Bless that asbestos.
And became one with those lungs.
Yeah, amen.
That has been such a fun new level to live at.
That's great. I just want to share. I worked for 25 years in a place where I was the highest paid, most looked up to, and least respected member of the crew. Everybody else was okay and I wasn't okay. And over the years, I fought that. I said, it's not fair, you're not treating me right, blah, 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 right? And I would whine to my friends. Kathy's one of them, has heard my whining many times about how horrible I was treated. But in the end, and it took me about 5 years before a miracle spared me from the rest of my life there, or more years there, itty-bitty little glimmers of, oh my, I'm training these people to abuse me. I'm making them the villains in my bad movie, and I'm the one who needs to be forgiven. I don't need to forgive them. You know, I need to ask them in my heart to forgive me. If I ask them outright, I'll say, please forgive me for making you the villains in my bad movie. I don't know if that would have worked so good. Brett had his hand up. Well, go ahead. There's more. We got time. We'll get to you. Okay.
It's, I like the idea that David brought up earlier about our operating systems.
Mm-hmm.
And we are all part of this operating system, which needs critical updates periodically. I think what you're referring to, Randall, is a critical update. And I'm finding delight as often as possible realizing my ant in the anthill, and that's even overstating it.
You are an open source engineer, right?
Right.
This is an open source deal.
Yeah, and it's having this part to play, watching all of the rest of the universe is a little too big, but play its part and bouncing off of it and realizing that we are all actually completely in this together, together, part of the OS of life. How much fun is that?
Yeah. How,
you know?
Yes, how powerful.
Yeah.
You're taking that takes responsibility for the whole matrix.
And you can't hold others to blame
Right.
for taking their responsibility in their part of the
That's
whole
right.
matrix.
That's right.
Because we're all doing the same thing.
And if we take responsibility for the whole matrix, then we accept it as it is and recognize our power to have that influence in changing it. We'll come to you next. We'll come over to you. This is good. It's meaty.
Thanks, Randall. So I was thinking of an author, Paul Farini. He wrote the book Love Without Conditions. And one of the things that he said was really powerful. He said, there's not one single relationship that can't be sustained if you practice true forgiveness. And I really love that. And Dave, you're always so good about articulating that, connecting with that truth of who we are within ourselves, and from that space, I see that there's nobody that actually even needs forgiveness, and that we are whole. I am whole right now in this moment. There's nothing broken or needing fixing, nor is Trump the same way, but I find for myself, because I know he pushes so many buttons, and he does for me as well, that I think we've come to this place. I feel like I've come to this place where I have to have something extreme in my life in a way that helps me to get in touch with that part of myself that I still haven't forgiven. And so to me, he's just such a powerful teacher for that. I feel my anger, my judgment, my blame, and sometimes maybe even my hatred towards him that I have to come to peace with in some ways. And I'm not interested in fixing him or changing him, because honestly, there's another 1,000 Donald Trumps in the world, and I can't change them all. So what can I do within myself? But I'm finding more and more like giving myself permission to just really be present with this feeling of anger or frustration or even hatred, like having compassion for myself, but then also having compassion for him as well in his approach. Like, we have to do it this way, to know that his thoughts and his feelings aren't wrong as well. So for me, he's just such a prime teacher, as frustrating as it can be. He is such a prime teacher for healing and forgiveness and practicing that.
And can you bless that whole process?
We'll see. I know.
Honestly,
I'm
I
present
love
where
it.
I'm at. I'm not
I love you, man.
I'm not fighting it. I'm very present, and I'm at peace with it. I'll say
Yeah.
that. Where
Awesome.
it goes, I don't know that I want to bless him at this point in time. because I blessed somebody. I was blessing Osama bin Laden one time, honestly, and in my dream, I had him. He was in my dream, and he goes, "Yes, yes, give me more." Like it was this very demonic thing, and so I'm a bit cautious on blessing. I want to hold a space for him to, awaken to who he is and experience joy and peace. Blessing, I'm not sure if I'm ready to go there. So
Marilyn's
that's my
next.
truth.
She's been waiting. And then Nora. And then Catherine. And then we got to move on.
2 thoughts. One, kind of related to what you said, is a little ditty. Never say die, say damn. It may not be classic, it may be profane, but we mortals find need of it time and time again, and you'll find you'll recover from fate's hardest slam if you never say die, say damn. The other thing I was thinking of was a baby. And, a baby doesn't have language, so it doesn't have anything it doesn't know about forgiving or having something to forgive. Its want and its need are the same thing. I mean, and our response to them is the same. They may burp all over our fresh blouse. They may, pee and poop all over everything, and we have to clean it up. They may wake us up in the middle of the night when we're dead tired, but we're never angry. We don't have to forgive them. We love them.
Yes.
And that love comes back to us when we interact with them. So if instead of trying to be these great, smart grown-ups all the time, maybe we just need to go back to our beginnings and be very childlike.
Amen. Okay, so we've run over 5 minutes. Can we call it here? All right. Next.